Welcome back to Starting Point on TVRI World. Still with me is Siska Becker and my partner Audrey Utoyo, who cannot wait to introduce to you our special guest for today's edition.
Yes, indeed, Siska. We do have a special guest right here in our studio. And before that, let's get a little bit of a brief background and profile of who he is. So, movies can be a way to share and express admiration or appreciation to something or someone. Now, talking about movies, let's get to know more about a filmmaker, Tasos Karantakos, a filmmaker from Greece. Let's take a look. From Greece, Tasos Karantakos has traveled several countries and expressed his admiration for something unique from the countries he visited. Among the nations he's visited by Tasos include Palestine, Ukraine, and now Indonesia. He has documented the Mentawai tribe in West Sumatra and will visit Yogyakarta. The filmmaker shares his experiences through a social media account called Unseen Voices, which has been running for 3.5 years.
Wow, those are fascinating visuals from a documentary filmmaker from Greece, Tasos Karantakos, who's joining us here in the morning in the studio for Starting Point. Hello, good morning.
Tasos.
Selamat pagi. Tasos Karantakos.
Exactly.
You have to be
I know
really
it's difficult.
careful.
Greek names,
I
you know.
we're not familiar.
Pleasure
Try
being
saying
here.
it 5 times fast.
Oh, that's true. That would really test
Yes.
my Greek. Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here.
No, it's
first
my
of all.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, please allow us to know you better first. Could you tell us how long have you been doing this documentary filmmaking?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been into filmmaking for the past 4 years, but it's really the past 2 years that I'm really focusing on documentary filmmaking. I would say like my passion really excelled when it comes to documentaries with the war in Ukraine. I just happened to be back in Greece and started, and I had friends there. So I've been I've been documenting the war for I've been 3 times in 3 separate occasions. Then
in Ukraine? You've been to Ukraine
in
3
Ukraine,
times.
yes.
Oh, wow.
In 3 different stages of the war. The first week, then after the Russians retreated from Kiev, and then I went to Kharkiv the 3rd time.
Was that how you started doing documentaries, or did
not really. Actually, everything started in Southeast Asia, which is exciting. So it's a full circle moment for me 4 years later coming back here, because 4 years ago, I want to pursue filmmaking, and so I saved some money and I dropped out of university. Not recommended.
Did you really? Yes. I wonder what your parents said about that.
Well, they're proud now. I'm here, so it's it all worked out.
Yeah.
Out. But yeah, so I bought a one-way ticket to 2019 in Singapore, and then I visited Vietnam, Thailand, and Myanmar. Myanmar really changed me because that's where I did my first expedition trip, visiting a tribe in the western part of the country. It's called Chin State. It's the last generation carrying a tattoo tradition in their faces because the government there outlawed this tradition in 1962. So anyway, that was like my first expedition, right, in Myanmar. Like that's like 4 years ago. And though at the time I wasn't making documentaries, I was always carrying that feeling with me. And then fast forward in 2020, like November, then I went to Mexico. It was one of the few countries open during COVID, obviously. And there, I decided to pursue really documentary filmmaking because I stayed there for a while. And I filmed 4 episodes, 4 episodes in southern Mexico about different topics. And then I went to New York trying to promote these documentaries. That's where I met Audrey.
Yes, that's true. That's where we met.
Yes, and then I was planning to stay there, but anyway, with visa problems, I came back to Europe, and then the war started, the war in Ukraine. So that's where I really, explored my, and it's contradictory because it's such a sad situation, obviously. But from maybe you understand this, like as a newscaster, as a reporter, as a documentary filmmaker, it's interesting from a creative standpoint, right?
Okay.
So it was tough, but then that toughened me up to visit places like Mentawai, for example, like 3, 4, 5 days in the jungle to document this. So yeah, it's just a passion about, as you said, unseen voices.
Yeah.
Our goal is to give a voice to 100 communities around the world because with long form content, you know, it's not like 5 minutes. It can be how long you want to be.
Yeah.
You can really dive deeper into the story. So, you know, my goal is really to visit communities like in Africa. I've been to alleged witch camps, and I really research and read so as to give a voice to people that have no voice. That's like my main goal.
Okay.
Yeah, I do like the name that you chose, Unseen Voices. I have never seen or heard anything like that. Like, how did you come up with that name? Was it from the original travels? Was it just after seeing this community? Like, what in particular about that interests you?
I mean, as I said, it's about the untold stories, and I was trying to find a catchy way to to really portray it, so it catches your attention, so it's successful.
Yeah, it does.
But it really, you know, it really embodies my goal. You know, my goal, as I said, is like to go to places that people don't go. That's why, for example, I'm in Indonesia like 3 weeks. No Bali for me, no Lombok. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
But for me, it's like really diving deeper into the stories. That's why I went to Mentawai. That's why tomorrow I have a 6 a.m. flight to West Kalimantan. I go.
Wow.
Yes, I go to Borneo for a while, just to document 2 of the Dayak tribes there.
All right. So. For me, that's fascinating. And I really want to know, actually, how did your infatuation and your passion for this indigenous tribes, for their way of living, and for this unheard of communities, how did it begin? How did you first get interested in that kind of topic? You know, it's very anthropology based, right?
Yes.
Did you learn about this at school?
It is. Not really. And you know, as a documentary filmmaker, every time you start on a new story, you realize how much you don't know because you have to educate yourself on that story.
Of course.
So much research, I'm sure.
A lot. So like everything starts like months ago. Like for me to come here, I was reading about the Mentawai, I was reading about the Dayak that I'm going tomorrow. And obviously, it really helps to have a local person on the ground to guide you, give context into the story. But as I said, my interest really started in Myanmar, like 4 years ago, as I said. But then it just, me personally, I like to read, and I'm really into documentaries and geopolitics and everything.
Okay. So it's always been your interest.
The past 4 years, really, that I've really developed.
And it started in Southeast Asia, right? Now you're from Greece. That's like the other part of the world. Why did you?
Quite far.
It's quite far.
Yes.
Why did you decide to go all the way to Southeast Asia to begin this exploration of yours?
Because I'll tell you what. So like when I was studying before I dropped out, I was meeting people in Europe, people from Australia, and everybody was telling me about Southeast Asia. And because I have this genuine curiosity, as I said, I always want to explore a place outside of Europe, outside of what's familiar to me. So many people had to recommend Southeast Asia. I had no idea. I just booked a one-way ticket.
Oh, really?
Here, in November 2019, and then explore as I went. I still remember, of course, I mean, I landed in Singapore, which is like a Western place, but then I remember I went to Saigon and Ho Chi Minh.
Okay.
And I remember getting on the Grab for the first time, and I was like, what is this place? Because for you guys it's normal, but for me, where I'm from...
Yeah, completely different experience.
Yes, and people here, like, it's the culture, you know, like very, very different, the Asian cultures, if I'm allowed to.
Was there like any misconception that you had as a European when it comes to Southeast Asia, and then you realize that actually it's a completely different thing once you get here and learn about the way we live here?
Not really, because when I was younger, I wasn't really that educated in this part of the world, if I'm being completely honest. But what I came to realize is like, you guys have genuine respect for one another, and this is part of your culture here. And especially in Indonesia, for example, here I was just discussing this earlier, that people here are genuinely nice. It's difficult for me to explain. When people say makasih or matunun, if you're in Java or somewhere. Yes.
Very smooth. That was
now
good.
You know these terms, yes.
You guys have 700 languages. It's crazy.
True,
but I want to say that people are so like genuinely nice here, and it feels so nice. because I'm so far away from home, as you said.
Yeah.
To have a place that, you know, your heart feels warm, and Indonesia is that for me this past few weeks. So.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
Yeah, it's really great to hear.
What has been the best experiences so far in Indonesia?
I would say, of course, the Mentawai was insane. You know,
Okay.
yes, 'cause it was difficult. You know, I knew it was jungle, but then
Yes.
I arrived there and it was like really jungle. Like,
It's a,
it takes
really
a
dense
while.
tropical jungle, right?
Yes, because like to go, you have to fly from Jakarta, let's say, to Padang. From
Okay.
there, you take a 3.5-hour ferry. From there, you take a wooden boat 2 hours into the jungle, and then you hike like barefoot in the mud for like 2 hours to arrive where the shamans are.
Okay.
So that was a very beautiful experience. But I would say the best experience has been every single day. This morning, coming here, the Grab driver is smiling, everybody's so nice. And yeah, I already know I'm coming back here. So maybe I'll see you again.
That's true.
I think our niceness has rubbed off on him, Audrey. He's being
Just
so
from
nice.
this short conversation, yes.
Through his conversation.
I mean, most definitely look forward later on, like when you're back in Indonesia, and that's so interesting that you also have the courage to go to these communities. That's honestly what I am really interested about, because not just anybody would go out of their comfort zone, have that bravery and courage to go to a community that you do not know of and you do not speak the language. That is incredible.
You know, one of my big motivations with the project is that in a world today with social media, everybody has a phone, everything is so well documented, right?
Okay.
It's so difficult to find a story that is not documented. So in order to do that, you have to go in extreme lengths. And many people ask me, are you afraid to go to the war? Of course I'm afraid, I'm not crazy, I don't want to die. But you overcome that for the sake of the story.
Okay. Now, I want to get to the nitty-gritty of your filmmaking. I mean, I want to speak on behalf of maybe other young filmmakers who are watching us right now. So first, I want to know, how do you keep fit? Because it's a lot of work, a lot of stamina is needed, a lot of energy, endurance when you go through these jungles, living with them. It's not like us city folks are used to, right? So, of course, you need to be sure that stamina-wise, endurance-wise, you're ready for this. How do you get ready for that?
You really don't. And after every trip, you really need to rest.
Okay, all right.
Right now, like after a jungle, I'm like a bit tired. But I'm fasting, for example, because like that's I practice intermittent fasting.
Okay.
And that's because when you travel, you don't control your diet. Like, for example, for me, like amazing food, masakan in Indonesia, and
Okay.
amazing. But I'm not used to the taste in Indonesia, anywhere I go. So one way you can control that, because you cannot control the intake most of the time, but you can control the how you eat, and that really like gives me energy.
Okay.
And yeah, just also.
And you carry your equipments everywhere.
Yeah, just with a bag everywhere. So just working out and just sleeping well. Sleep is important.
Okay. Now, if you don't mind me asking about your finances, how do you finance all these travels and explorations? Because
no, absolutely.
that would be the number one question, actually, by a lot of filmmakers.
It's always the number one question. Yes.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, traveling is not as expensive as we think. That's A.
Okay.
B is that so the documentaries themselves don't make me money yet. But for example, when I go and make a documentary in the war in Ukraine, maybe I work for stations like this. They hire me. So I'm a freelancer, you know, and it helps obviously because I have a track record now, so people can see the level of my work and everything, my portfolio.
Okay.
So I get jobs like that. Like I've worked like with big newspapers, like El País, the biggest Spanish-speaking newspaper. But also, I work with a big YouTuber. He's a friend of mine, and so basically, I finance my documentaries, and I do other jobs like freelance video making outside of that to finance.
I see.
This,
so you hustle here.
Yes, but you know, like, but it's 100% risk. When you're like on your own, it's risky, like from a financial standpoint. But again, I'm willing to take that risk. You know, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. So hopefully, it's gonna work out.
I think our conversation has just got interesting, but we're going to take a little break now. Don't go anywhere. We'll continue our conversation, of course, with this young filmmaker from Greece, Tasos. Don't go anywhere. Starting Point, we'll be right back. Thank you for staying with us on Starting Point on TVRI World, where I, Siska Becker, my partner, Audrey Utoyo, are still so fascinated by all the stories from our guest, Tasos Karantakos, a young filmmaker who has been traveling all over Indonesia for his documentary Unseen Voices.
That's true, Siska. And Tasos, it is really interesting. We've heard just a little bit, we've scratched the surface of your story. Now I want to ask you, why Indonesia? Because you said that you've been to all these different places, these remote villages in the world, exotic countries. Why did you choose Indonesia? Is it the ethnic group? Is it the food? What's an aspect about it that really stands out to you?
It's really everything, because as I said, 4 years ago I started traveling here in Southeast Asia, really, but I didn't have time to visit the whole region.
Okay.
So Philippines I'm missing, and Indonesia, I always want to come here. And I know you guys have such a diverse and rich culture, 700 languages, 800 are spoken. Like, that's insane concept to me, because my country, just one language, that's it. That's it, you know? So, and I really knew, like, obviously I didn't know specifics before I started researching, but I really knew that you have like different ethnic groups and everything. And then I started researching, and I realized there's not enough time for me to cover everything. Because
Too many.
yes, because you have from Sulawesi, like Java, Sumatra, and you know,
17,000 islands that,
it's like
would take
insane.
a lot of time.
So I really had to choose because I only had like really 2 weeks to film here. So I chose Java.
Okay.
Really Jakarta, I'm doing a story here these days. And then Sumatra, like West Sumatra, that I went for the Mentawai. And then a bit of West Kalimantan.
Okay. Now, Tasos, if you don't mind me making a suggestion, maybe as a filmmaker, as reference and as a way to learn more about Indonesia's culture, you can watch a few Indonesian movies. You know, it's a great way to learn about our movie industry and also about the culture. Especially, there are actually a number of Indonesian movies that feature heavily Indonesian culture.
That is true.
Now, let's explore that a little bit more with our viewers, since Indonesia is home to many ethnic groups, the rich cultures and unique traditions, as well as the interaction among the ethnic groups, become an interesting topic to tell through a movie. Now, here are 5 movies featuring Indonesia's cultures that are sure worth to watch. Let's have a look. Wow, that's a great list. I'm saving that list actually because of all those 5 great films, I've only seen the number 3, Ngeri-Ngeri Sedap.
Me too.
It's really great though. It takes place in North Sumatra in the Lake Toba, the biggest volcanic lake in the world. Fantastic view, very great story indeed, and a lot of interesting things you would find there as well. So hopefully that would serve as a good reference for you.
For sure, send me the list.
So how about yourself though? What is your favorite type of filmmaking? Like maybe you have like a favorite filmmaker that you can tell us that can give us a little more glimpse into your filmmaking style.
No, obviously, you know, it goes back when I was young, National Geographic, and you know, the classics, right? But really, for me, I guess my generation, I watch YouTube. Like that's where I get my my creative
inspiration.
Inspiration. Exactly. Thank you. And There's a few channels. So, like, the reason I'm doing what I'm doing, because besides Myanmar, that I explained before the story and everything, is a channel named Indigo Traveler. This guy.
Indigo Traveler.
Yeah, that he started like back in 2014 when nobody was really doing this type of content. He was going to Afghanistan, to all these places. And I was like, this is like fascinating concept to me. I wish I could do that one day.
So that sparked the interest as well to capture all these far away places.
Yes,
that you think can, serve as inspiration to other people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and you know that with what we do comes also responsibility, because when I come and, like, for example, we're talking about the Mentawai, or I go to the war in Ukraine, like, there's a certain geopolitical context you have to respect, and you have to be knowledgeable to do this thing. So it's a burden, like, so sometimes it can be a lot. But yeah, like, I follow a few YouTube channels, and it's amazing to see how, with so, like, I would say small productions, somebody's in their house and they do such high level of work. So it's really amazing. I can recommend a few channels like Johnny Harris, Indigo Traveler, and James Channing.
Nice, cool.
Others,
Wow. Like, now that you have done a lot of these traveling and encountered so many different types of people, what are some takeaways that you've had from this experience? Because I would say this is not a normal experience, right, Siska, for people, especially still in their mid-20s, like being able to have all these experiences and travels. Like, what are some of the lessons that you've learned as well?
Great question. So first is that the world is abundant, and the more you explore the world, the more you realize how much you don't know. Every time I go into a new country, I think I have some experience, and then I realize, no, totally new place, you gotta start from zero, have to be open to the culture. When I come, for example, in Indonesia, I'm super open, like, I'm listening to people, I'm trying to learn. Because, many people travel, but few people learn. Like, that's, a common question is, how many countries you've been in? Doesn't matter how many countries you've been in. What matters is what you do in that country. So that's A. And B is that, though, I go to dangerous areas around the world is a lot safer than we think. And people help you. And despite, from Africa to America to Asia, people will help you. People are nice. That's like the main takeaway I've got. And even, like, for example, in the war in Ukraine and, like, in very intense places, people are still nice and people are very resilient. So I'm very proud about, I would say, the human race. Maybe that's too romantic to say, but people are nice. There are always exceptions. Greece here, maybe, but people are nice for the most part.
That is such a great takeaway. So you can say that your faith in humanity was restored through these travels. That's also a great tip for other filmmakers out there who's probably still deciding to go through with, everything that they dreamed of, making all those documentaries. Just so your suggestion would be just go for it.
Just do it.
Yes, and don't get me wrong, it's not going to be easy. Nobody's going to hand you over anything, but it's part of the process, If it were easy, anybody would do it. So if you want to do it, go ahead and do it.
And prepare to hustle hard, right?
That's true.
Along the way. So Unseen Voices, when can we see it? Where can we see it? What can you tell us about how to be a part of the journey and the
part
program?
of your community?
No, for sure. It's Unseen Voices all across social media, YouTube, Instagram, too many ones, TikTok. I gotta be more active, but I'm getting old, so. But yeah, YouTube, Indonesia videos coming soon, so excited.
Excited to see that. Yes,
looking forward to.
And lastly, Tasos, what is a message that you would like to address to the Indonesian people?
I would say terima kasih for everything, and I don't know, your country is amazing, and I already know I'm coming back, so thank you for everything, and see you soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Tasos Karantakos, for sharing with us your story and your inspiration and starting point today. All the best for your future travels, and hopefully you'll get to find out even more about Indonesia and share it with the rest of the world.
For sure. My pleasure, and good luck to you too.
Yes. Thank you, Tasos.
No worries.
Well, that is a really, really great conversation, Siska, with a documentary filmmaker who has explored many different parts of the world, and now he is in Indonesia. And I love when talking about these cultures, and especially talking to filmmakers of how it also expands our mindset. As he said before, going to new places, we always need to have a beginner's mindset and be able to have the humility as well to be able to encounter different types of people.
Very well said. That is a great assessment, Audrey. And to say the least, he has inspired me to visit more places in Indonesia other than Bali and Lombok. So hopefully I get to do that itinerary.
Me too.
So we'll be back in Starting Point. Don't go anywhere.